Flu cases in hospitals jumped 55% in a week. NHS bosses say the surge of the so-called super flu in England is leaving the health service facing a worst-case scenario for this time of year, with no peak in sight.
The suspicion is that we're going to go up to around 6,000, maybe 8,000 patients in hospital at the very peak. Unfortunately, we don't yet know when that peak will come, so it is a very difficult situation.
What can you do to protect yourself, and is there a shortage of flu jabs? We'll get advice. Also this lunchtime. A theft at the museum. 4 men wanted after 600 British Empire artefacts belonging to Bristol Museum are stolen. The Christmas tradition no one wants as your favourite sweet treats shrink again. And
neighbours, everybody needs good neighbours.
the end of the road for the residents of Ramsay Street as Neighbours is axed again.
This is the ITV Lunchtime News with Nina Hossain.
Good afternoon. 2 weeks today is Christmas Day, but how many celebrations might be cancelled due to surging cases of flu this year? The numbers in England are still going in the wrong direction. Hospital admissions for flu cases have surged 55% in just a week. Some NHS trusts are now demanding patients, staff and visitors wear masks. But this lunchtime, the Prime Minister said the government has no plans to change its guidance on face masks. We're being urged to get the flu jab, but there are reports of a shortage of appointments in some parts of the country. So how can you protect yourself and your family? Rosie Dowsing has the latest.
For the last fortnight, ITV News has laid bare the pressure our hospitals are under. And this morning, confirmation a super flu crisis is making matters worse, with cases still yet to peak.
The suspicion is that we're going to go up to around 6,000, maybe 8,000 patients in hospital at the very peak. Unfortunately, we don't yet know when that peak will come, so it is a very difficult situation, and it's difficult for the emergency care system, which has already been under pressure.
The number of people in hospital in England with flu has jumped by 55% in a week. An average of 2,660 flu patients were in hospital each day last week. At this point last year, that number stood at around 1,800 patients, while in 2023 it was just 402.
That was the line of trolleys that we passed.
That's right. It's meant anyone going to A&E, even without the flu, faces grim waiting times.
It's very scary.
70-year-old Linda Whitby waited over 26 hours for a bed last week.
So nobody likes going to the hospital, but you should be able to go with confidence, knowing that they're going to look after you, and they should have the resources to look after you. And if they can't, well, what hope is there?
Linda, who has Crohn's disease, went to A&E with severe abdominal pain, a temperature and uncontrollable shaking. Her daughter says the waiting room, filled with cries, was the stuff of nightmares.
It was depressing. Depressing, sad. I think lonely in one respect. Lonely for a lot of people in there who had nobody with them. People on wheelchairs in drips and things like that. There was a man lying on the floor with his foot up, with his socks off, because there was nowhere for him to lie down. It's unacceptable.
The trust that runs Arrow Park Hospital in Merseyside has apologised and blames exceptionally high flu cases. The problem could be made worse still with the threat of strike action next week by resident doctors in a dispute over pay. Meanwhile, as they grapple with the super flu surge, A&E departments ask that people only come if they absolutely have to. And if they do, well, it could be a very long wait. Rosie Dowsing, ITV News.
Our Scotland reporter Vanessa Taff is outside the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital in Glasgow. Vanessa, what's the situation in Scotland right now?
Well, flu cases are up by almost a quarter here, 24% within the last week, 2,331 more cases. So it really feeds into the rising trend of the rest of the UK. Now, hospital admissions here are what they call at a moderate level, so those are up by 15%. But really the concern with that is for the health professionals here is that's much higher right now than it normally is at this time during the flu outbreak and the flu season. Now, of course, with that, thankfully, there is some good news. The vaccine does seem to be working at keeping 65-year-olds and young school-aged people out of hospitals here as well. But the concern is that between the age groups of 5 to 14, those school-aged pupils are becoming more sick with the flu, and there are higher numbers of cases with that. Actually, Aberdeenshire Council have taken the decision to reduce their teaching hours, and this might remind some parents of the COVID lockdown, but they're being asked to learn online and learn at home. Now, I've been here all afternoon seeing people coming and going, and there isn't mandatory mask wearing at the moment, but that is something I understand that health boards are looking at potentially bringing into force as this outbreak continues. Now, of course, experts are aware the festive season's coming up. It's what's known locally here on Friday as Black Friday. Lots of offices have their Christmas parties, sure to be a super spreader event for some, and experts are worried that we're not seeing the peak of this just yet.
Vanessa Taff, thank you very much for that roundup. Thank you. So how easy or indeed hard is it to get a flu jab right now? Those who are eligible for one on the NHS are being urged to book an appointment for theirs. But what about people who need to go private, given there are reports of a shortage of flu vaccines? I'm joined by Dr. Layla Hanbeck, Chief Executive of the Independent Pharmacies Association. 2 weeks until Christmas. It takes 2 weeks for the vaccine to work. If you want a flu jab, you're not eligible on the NHS, can you still get one in time?
Well, some pharmacies are offering private vaccinations, and we've seen a lot of demand right now just before Christmas. So many pharmacies are very busy jabbing away. In some areas, we've seen stock depleting a little bit, but nationally there's still stock available, so you can still order it from manufacturers. But obviously, with Christmas coming up and people mixing, many people are worried that they need to get the jabs now. So we just ask them to ask the pharmacist, and if they haven't got it, then just ask around.
Yeah, what is your advice? Because if people are trying to go online and find an appointment where they live or even further afield and are not getting one, what can you do?
Well, at the moment, we haven't been told that there is a national shortage issue with regards to vaccine, and I did check before coming here today, and many pharmacists can actually access them, and order them in. It's just a matter of asking. If the local pharmacy that they have nearby hasn't got it, then it's worth asking pharmacies nearby until they can get a private vaccine.
Is there a specific proportion, a makeup of the population that you would be advising should seek out the flu jab, even if in normal years they haven't got one? Are we talking about teenagers or people over 40, over 50? What's your advice?
Well, naturally, those who are eligible to get the NHS vaccination definitely should get the vaccine, because they are at risk group and they are more likely to get the flu. So therefore, they are basically priority. But anyone who has a weaker immune system, but also is worried because, they've had any issues in the past and they want to just have a peace of mind, we recommend that they speak to the pharmacist.
We're dealing with a new strain, but just to reassure people, if you do get the jab, this should work in terms of either preventing you getting the flu or lessening the symptoms.
Well, it doesn't necessarily prevent you from getting the flu, but it does lessen the symptoms and also reduces the chances of getting hospitalised. But obviously, it's a very nasty strain that we're seeing at the moment, and obviously NHS are worried about that. But getting the jab obviously helps with the symptoms, managing the symptoms, and more importantly, reduce the chances of getting hospitalised.
Very briefly, if you can't get one right now, would you try and get one in January, or is it too late by then?
Well, we will make sure that we do everything that we can to get hold of the jabs, to ensure that we vaccinate everyone as much as we can. But I mean, it's never too late to get a vaccine during this season, particularly with the strain going around.
Fabulous, Dr. Layla Hanbeck. Thank you very much for coming in to talk to us about that. Thank you. And for more on the rising flu cases, head to our website. That's itv.com/news. As you've been hearing, one of the extra pressures on the NHS in the run-up to Christmas is the next doctors' strike. Resident doctors, used to be called junior doctors, in England are due to walk out next Wednesday for 5 days. But a new deal, a new offer from the government is currently being considered by the British Medical Association. The offer doesn't meet the BMA's pay demands, but it does address some of the union's other concerns. Our political reporter Jasmine Cameron-Chaleshi has more details. Jasmine, what are the chances of this latest action being called off at the last minute?
Well, at the moment that's unclear, but what we do know is that the health secretary has put forward what he believes is a robust offer, which includes expanding the number of specialist training posts, giving priority to British doctors on these, as well as promises to cover expenses like exam fees. Now, as you say, crucially, this offer doesn't address the thorny issue of pay, but the BMA have put this to their resident doctors and have promised to cancel their 5-day walkout if the majority back the government's deal. Now, speaking today, the Prime Minister urged the BMA to do what he described as the responsible thing and accept the offer.
They are being irresponsible in my view. We have already put in place quite a significant pay rise. There are other issues that they're concerned about, which we've been listening to, and we put an offer on the table to deal with those issues. But that offer can only go forward if they don't take strike action, particularly in the run-up to Christmas, particularly when we've got a problem with flu. It would be irresponsible of BMA to push through. And I think for many resident doctors, I think, in their heart of hearts, they probably don't want to do this.
Now, the BMA say this offer does nothing to restore pay for doctors. They've given their members until Monday to respond. In the meantime, the government will be hoping that they've done enough to avert yet another set of walkouts.
Jasmine, thank you very much. Thank you. Andy Burnham, Labour's Mayor of Greater Manchester, has told ITV News some government policies on homelessness are making the problem worse. Labour's strategy has just been released with an ambition to halve the number of long-term rough sleepers in the next 5 years in a bid to end homelessness. It wants to ensure both hospital patients and prisoners who have served their time are not homeless when they are released. But Mr Burnham says the government needs to be more radical. Our investigations editor Daniel Hewitt has the details of the strategy. Daniel, talk us through the plan and the reaction to it.
Well, Nina, this government inherited a really bleak picture when it comes to homelessness of all kinds, and it's got worse in the last year. Data by Shelter Today shows more than 380,000 people have become homeless. That's up 8% since Labour came to power. There are record numbers of children living in temporary accommodation, and rough sleeping has skyrocketed since 2010. So there is no quick fix here. The government's £3.5 billion homelessness strategy aims to, as you say, half rough sleeping by the time of the next election, but also put more money into prevention to stop people presenting to their local councils as homeless in the first place, as well as stopping the unlawful use, they say, of children growing up in bed and breakfast who are homeless. We've been contacted over the last 2 years by people in these situations. A few weeks ago, we were contacted by Geraldine in South London. She was given a no-fault eviction notice. She was renting privately, tried to find somewhere else to live, couldn't, and we were with her last Tuesday when she was evicted by bailiffs.
40 minutes I'm trying to get through to somebody at the council to let them know in an hour I'm homeless with a 12-year-old and the dog. I don't know what to do anymore.
Well, 10 days on, Geraldine is still looking for somewhere permanent to live. The reaction to this strategy, well, some charities, I think, in the homelessness sector have actually been quite underwhelmed by it and say that one of the big problems has been the government's decision to freeze local housing allowance or housing benefit, which they say is pushing more people into homelessness. It's a point that the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, has agreed with. Now, he has, since 2017, has been Mayor of Greater Manchester, had pledged to eradicate rough sleeping altogether by 2020. He hasn't done that. And in an interview with me ahead of this strategy, he says that's in part due to government policies actually making the matter worse.
As I kind of look back at my old workplace, Westminster, they pose as tough on benefits and, You know, let's freeze local housing allowance. What I've seen in my role when those decisions are taken, it just builds the number of families who present as homeless.
I think it's felt in government that's a typically unhelpful intervention by Andy Burnham, but he makes a wider point about the homelessness in the country. He welcomes this strategy, but says it needs to be a lot more radical. The government says this will ultimately be solved by building more social housing, which they say they will do over the next 10 years.
Daniel Hewitt, thank you very much. Thank you. Next, a police appeal in Bristol after the theft of more than 600 artefacts relating to the British Empire and Commonwealth. Avon and Somerset police are asking for help to identify 4 men captured on CCTV, who the force says broke into a building in the city in September. It's not clear why news of the burglary is only being released now. Ian Woods is with me. What more can you tell us then?
Yeah, unusual for it to take so long for the details to be made public, but this happened in the Cumberland Road area of Bristol back on September the 25th, sometime between 1 and 2 in the morning. Now, perhaps it took time to establish exactly what has been taken, but Avon and Somerset police say many of the more than 600 items stolen have a significant cultural value to the city. Many were donated to the museum over the years and tell something of an insight into both Bristol and British history. Now, police have released these CCTV images of 4 people officers want to speak to. They're all described as white. One was wearing a white cap, black jacket, light-coloured trousers and black trainers. The second man was wearing a grey hooded jacket, black trousers and black trainers. The third wearing a green cap, black jacket, light-coloured shorts and white trainers. And he appeared to walk with a slight limp on his right leg. And finally, the fourth man was wearing a 2-toned orange and navy black puffer jacket, black trousers and black and white trainers. Now, anyone who recognises the men or who has seen some of these items being sold online is asked to contact the police.
Okay, Ian Woods, thank you very much. Thank you. Next, along with lots of things at the moment, some of our favourite Christmas treats are getting more expensive. The cost of Christmas dinner trimmings are up compared to last year, with the price of cranberry sauce now 86p, up 10%. The typical price for a 3-course Christmas meal in a restaurant is now £36 per person, up 4% on last year. And poor cocoa harvests have driven the price of chocolate up by 18%. But there's another, more subtler way that our wallets are being hit, known as shrinkflation. It sees the price of things staying the same, but the size of the product getting smaller. With the details, here's our consumer editor, Chris Choi.
For millions, this is all part of unwrapping Christmas, but it's one aspect of the festive season that's not like it used to be.
Everybody loves a tub of chocolates at Christmas. It reminds them of when they were younger. I have noticed that the size of the tubs has reduced over the years. This year it's a bit smaller again, and you can tell that there are less and less chocolates each year.
Celebrations sharing tubs were 550 grams last year, now down to 500 grams. The company blames rising manufacturing costs and says it's not a decision we take lightly. Quality Street was 600 grams last year, 550 this Christmas. The company says it's because of the cost of manufacturing, ingredients, transport and the preference of our customers. Toblerone has shrunk from 360 grams last Christmas to 340 for this festive season. The firm told us any changes to our product sizes is a last resort. Our manufacturing and supply chain costs have increased significantly. And when sizes drop, prices don't always follow. That's something known as shrinkflation. Some countries, including France and Italy, have rules about it. This consumer lawyer says retailers there must display signs alerting consumers when shrinkflation happens.
In some countries, you only have to tell consumers for the first month after the shrinkflation change has happened, whereas in Italy, I think you have to keep the label up for 6 months.
The price of cocoa has risen 450% in the last 3 years, so that's gone up more than 4 times.
The food sector says it works hard to cushion customers from the rising price of core ingredients.
Some shoppers clearly feel it's a bit sneaky to shrink down the sizes of products like these chocolate tubs, especially at Christmas.
They'll look at cutting costs in the first instance, but if they can't offset the price increase in that way, they'll look at either increasing the price or making the product slightly smaller. But what they're trying to do is make sure that the things that people love to buy, especially at this time of year, are still affordable.
Food firms say even when sizes shrink, value for money remains, and that there are more promotional offers this year. But some of the small pleasures of Christmas are getting smaller. Chris Choi, ITV News.
Finally, the Australian soap Neighbours has been axed again. The drama surrounding the residents of Ramsay Street was revived 2 years ago, but the reboot, it didn't last long. The final episode airs today. Sharon Thomas on The Long Goodbye.
Neighbours, everybody needs good neighbours.
The first Good Day from Ramsay Street was back in 1985. The show made stars out of Kylie Minogue and Jason Donovan, with 20 million people tuning in to watch their wedding in 1987. It was also a springboard for singer Natalie Imbruglia and Hollywood star Margot Robbie. The show was set in suburban Melbourne. Its secret, its simplicity, together with a bit of fun, and of course the inevitable dramas. But 2022 saw what everyone thought was the last hurrah. The famous faces returned for the finale. Neighbours was axed after being dropped by Channel 5. Like all good soap plots, though, it was back, revived by Amazon, only to be ditched once again. The final episode will air tonight.
I love Ramsay Street. I love our friends. Love our neighbours.
Jason, our executive producer, did the loveliest thing for me with my career with Neighbours, and that is he gave me the very final line on the show.
Superfans in Neighbours' homeland are mourning the loss.
I think for these characters, they've been in our lounge rooms, some of them for 40 years. We've come to know them and they've become part of our family. And to see them go, it's a huge loss. It's like we're grieving them as our own.
But after 9,000 episodes spanned in classic soap opera style, could there be a final plot twist for one of Australia's most iconic and beloved shows? Or is this really the end for Erinsborough? Sharon Thomas, ITV News.
That's it. Mary will be here with the evening news at 6:30 from me and everybody on today's Lunchtime team.